My name is Marcus, and I'm 28 years old. The day my parents called me into the living room, I already felt the weight of whatever decision they'd made without me. They had that rehearsed tone, the one that meant they'd already divided everything up and were just waiting to deliver the verdict. My younger brother, Derek, sat in the armchair, scrolling through his phone, looking bored like this meeting had nothing to do with him. My dad stood by the window, arms crossed. My mom patted a couch cushion next to her, gesturing for me to sit. I stayed standing. They didn't dance around it. My dad started talking about responsibility and fairness, how they wanted to set both sons up for the future. My mom nodded along, then laid it out. Derek was getting a brand new condo in the city. Modern building, rooftop deck, parking spot, the whole package. My brother finally looked up and grinned, already texting someone the news. Then my mom turned to me. They were giving me a house. For half a second, something shifted in my chest. A house. That sounded solid, meaningful, like maybe this time I wasn't an afterthought. Then my dad handed me a folder with photos and the address. The hope didn't just fade, it cratered. The place was a wreck. Paint peeling, windows boarded, porch sagging, weeds swallowing the front walk. It looked condemned, like something you'd see on a demolition list. My mom rushed in with her usual spin, saying I was handy, practical, that this was a project with potential. Derek, she explained, needed something move-in ready for his career, his social life. I was different. I could handle this. I wanted to say something. I wanted to ask when exactly I'd signed up to be the one who gets less and calls it enough. But years of being the low-maintenance son, the one who didn't complain, who made things work, kept my mouth shut. I nodded. I thanked them. I swallowed it whole. They signed the papers fast. The house was mine. No strings, they said. Meanwhile, Derek's condo was fully paid for, furnished, decorated. My mom even picked out his bedding. I moved in a week later. First night, rain dripped through the ceiling into a pot I'd found in the kitchen. No heat, floorboards groaned like they were protesting my existence. But I stood there in the dark, breathing in dust and rot, and told myself this was still something, a foundation, a start. I worked 2 jobs, days at my warehouse gig, nights and weekends learning to be someone I never thought I'd become. I watched tutorials till my eyes burned, borrowed tools from a guy at work, cut my hands open more times than I count. I fixed the roof one shingle at a time, patched drywall, cleared out trash and debris from the backyard. Slowly, painfully, the house started to breathe again. Months turned into a year. I turned that disaster into a home. Nothing fancy, but solid, warm, mine. I built a small deck out back, refinished the original hardwood, installed a wood stove. It felt earned in a way nothing else ever had. That's when my parents asked to visit. My mom walked through the front door and stopped cold. Her eyes moved across the space, the restored walls, the afternoon light through windows I'd installed myself. Her mouth opened, but not in pride. I knew that look. She was calculating. My dad stood behind her, quiet, jaw tight. Derek wasn't there, but he didn't need to be. My mom finally spoke, and the words landed exactly how she meant them to. We've been talking, and we think this place makes more sense for Derek. His condo is too small. This has room for him to grow. We're going to transfer it to him. You have until Sunday to pack your things. I stared at her, waiting for the joke. It never came. She kept explaining how it was only fair, how family assets should be balanced, how I'd had my chance to fix it up. My dad avoided my eyes. That part cut deeper than anything she said. 2 days later, Derek showed up. He pulled in with a rental truck, boxes stacked in the back, confidence pouring off him like cologne. He was already talking about where his TV would go, how he'd repaint the kitchen. Then he walked inside and stopped. His face went pale. The smile vanished. He looked around like he was seeing something he couldn't quite understand. And he was, because none of them understood what I knew. They'd been so focused on the house, on the walls and windows that they'd missed what was underneath. When my parents handed me those papers a year ago, I actually read them, every line. The house was worthless to them, a liability they were happy to offload. But the land beneath it had never been properly subdivided. It was zoned differently than the surrounding lots, a commercial residential overlap from decades ago that no one had bothered to update. While they were busy decorating Derek's condo, I was quietly meeting with a lawyer, not to fight them, but to understand exactly what I owned. And what I owned wasn't just a renovated house. I owned a piece of land a development company had been trying to acquire for years. That's why 3 months earlier, I'd signed a conditional agreement. They didn't care about the structure. They wanted the location, the access, the zoning. The deal was simple. Once renovations met code, the sale would finalize. That happened last week. The money was already in escrow. So when my mom stood in my kitchen and told me I had until Sunday, I calmly asked her how she planned to make that happen. She snapped that they were my parents, that they gave it to me, that family doesn't ask permission. That's when I pulled out the folder. Deed, zoning variance, contract. I set them on the counter I'd installed myself. Silence landed like a weight. My dad picked up the papers first. His hands shook as he read. My mother leaned in, her face tightening with every line. Derek stepped closer, confusion shifting into something uglier as he realized this wasn't about paint colors anymore. I told them the truth slowly, clearly, so there could be no misunderstanding. The house was legally mine. The land was legally mine. And in 10 days, I wouldn't own either because I was selling it, not to Derek, not back to them, but to people who actually understood its value. My mom's voice cracked. She asked how much. I told her. Her knees buckled slightly. It was more than Derek's condo cost, more than they'd ever spent on me combined, more than they could ever match. Derek started arguing, saying it wasn't fair, that he'd already taken off work, that he'd told everyone he was moving. I reminded him gently that none of that was my problem. That's when the weight of it finally hit them. They'd given me a crumbling house and my brother a brand new condo. They'd never thought to check what they were actually handing over. They saw junk and gave me junk, never realizing they'd given me the one thing that mattered. They tried everything after that. Guilt, rage, promises. My mom offered to switch, to give me the condo instead, as if that could undo a year of dismissal. My dad finally looked at me and said we could figure something out. But it was too late. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. 10 days later, the developers arrived. Derek never moved in. The boxes went back in the truck. My parents stopped calling. The sale finalized quietly. I stood outside and watched the house one last time, the place I'd rebuilt from nothing, and I felt pride instead of loss. That house was never their punishment. It had been my proving ground. With the money, I bought my own place, on my terms. No comparisons, no favoritism. Just peace. Months later, I heard Derek's condo got sold. My parents needed the cash. Funny how things work out. I'm telling you this because stories like mine don't start with revenge. They start with being underestimated. If you've ever been given less, expected to accept scraps, or told to be grateful for unfairness, remember this: sometimes the thing they look down on holds more power than they can imagine.